difficulties. Hopefully by the time I'm done with my intro, they will be on the line. But we haven't done this before. So my name is Claire Sierawski. I work for U.S. Trade and Development Agency. I'm our West Africa Regional Manager based in Accra, Ghana. And I worked with Sosai to put this project together for USTDA's support. And so wanted to do this session. We haven't done this before. We got a bunch of questions, and we're kind of going through all of them and planning to post, and we still plan to post responses to them. But we figured that it would be good to just open it up to be able to have a conversation as well for those of you who want to bid on this project and may have questions. So we will post this on the RFP website as well for anybody who could not join. But thought we would try something new. Innovation is always good, and living in a virtual world, as we all are, this seemed like a good idea to try it out. So thank you all for joining today. We are talking about the Sosai project that USTDA is providing grant funding for a feasibility study for. As you've seen on the RFP website, all the information is included in that RFP package, the terms of reference for the study and background on the study. But by way of quick background, Sosai is a company in Nigeria that has been active for a number of years now. They started by doing cook stoves work, and then they wanted to move into the mini grid sector and saw the need for that in Nigeria. Unlike a lot of companies, they are kind of focused on central and northern Nigeria. And so I think that that's a unique aspect of this project as well. There's there's a lot of need all over Nigeria for mini grids, but not a lot of companies are super active in the central and northern regions. So I think that's one reason we were at USTDA very excited about this project. And so Sosai was able to build their first 2 mini grids with USADF support. And those mini grids have been up and operational for a few years now with some good success. And so they wanted to be able to respond to the Nigerian government's call for a fuller build out of mini grids and meeting the need of energy access. And so came to USTDA to launch this larger feasibility study for up to 100 communities in Nigeria. So they have been talking with several of the relevant DISCOs in the region and have identified over 100 sites. And so part of the project would be at the very beginning agreeing on the 100 sites that would be evaluated. And they, it's kind of from my perspective, kind of typical feasibility study for mini grid projects with one caveat to that. So it includes things like, energy audit for each of the communities, a basic environmental analysis that's required by the government of Nigeria, economic and financial analysis for those communities and for those mini grids. And those are kind of all the typical things. And then as part of USTDA's goal, we have our dual mission of supporting good, sustainable infrastructure development and also promoting the use of U.S. goods and services. So as part of that feasibility study, there's also a task focused on U.S. sources of supply for equipment for the project. As USTDA, we would obviously love to see exports from the U.S. coming out of this project so we can meet the dual goal of supporting great development in Nigeria and also supporting U.S. jobs in the U.S. So there's a U.S. source of supply section. And then the one kind of newer thing that we haven't done in our other feasibility studies for mini grids that's unique to this project is really having a focus on how the project will impact women. And so Sosai is a women-led company. They, in their existing mini grids, have had a strong focus on empowering women through energy access. And so this feasibility study will include a kind of assessment in the development impacts assessment and in the energy, in the kind of community surveys of trying to really dig into that question of how the project will likely impact women. And so I wanted to highlight that piece as well. I think it's both unique and important in terms of showing the development impact of energy access on women. And then also will be important, I think, to financing the project in the end. There's the 2X Global Challenge, where DFIs, development finance institutions, have come together and said that they will direct financing towards projects that are led by women, or benefit women. And so I think our hope is that implementation of the project and financing of the project might come from some of those DFIs through the 2X Challenge, and being able to show clearly how this project benefits women will be part of making that case. So with that, I think, we hopefully somebody from the Sosai team has joined. If so, can you speak up? Perhaps not. Okay, well, hopefully we will have them in a few minutes. But as you saw, the RFP was extended to this Friday, and we can go through the existing questions that have been posed, but we will also be posting answers to those questions. So I might open it up just for general questions at this time while we continue to wait for Sosai, and hopefully I will be able to field those questions, and if not, we can record them as additional questions to answer through the RFP website.
Somebody's raising their hand.
Yeah, and Vertiville, there's somebody with the name Vertiville that your hand has been up for a while, so maybe I will turn it to you, and then if you have a question, please raise your hand and we will get to you. And at the half an hour, I will turn it over to Shannon to moderate if Sosai has joined. And if they have not, then we might just cut this short at the half an hour and either reschedule or, again, welcome questions to be posted, and then we'll be able to answer them and post them by Wednesday, because I know time is short before the Friday deadline. Great. So we have a few hands. Vertiville, I'll turn to you, and then Matthew Dixon, and then Peter Lilienthal. So Vertiville, over to you for your question. Okay, we can't hear you. You may be muted. So either if you could, I'm not sure if your name is Vertiville, that's what it's coming up as, but if you could lower your hand if you don't have a question, or if you could unmute if you do. But just to keep things moving, oh, there we go. Vertiville?
She lowered her hand.
Okay. Okay, let's go on Matthew Dixon.
Hi, thanks, Colette. Just hopefully a quick question. Would you please clarify the host country subcontractor maximum participation percentage? Two different figures are given in the document. So if you could clarify, that would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Apologies for that. That will be part of what we submit in terms of responses. Usually the USTDA cap for subcontractors in country is 20%. So as you know, 80% of the grant funds have to be used for US contractors or contractors, the prime contractor or subcontractors that have the legal right to work in the US. And 20% can be used for local Nigerian subcontractors, and then nothing outside of Nigerian or US contractors or subcontractors. In this case, we did increase that to 30%. So the maximum is 30% of the budget can be used for local subcontractors. And that's because a lot of the work we're expecting for the environmental and social impacts and the site visits and things like that will be a contractor will want to facilitate through a subcontractor. So we wanted to give contractors that flexibility. You're not required to use 30%. It's just a max on how much you can use, but it has been increased for this project to 30%. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
And yeah, and then if you can just, everyone can please lower their hand after the question has been answered, that'd be great. And Peter, over to you.
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions, but before I ask them, is there a list somewhere where I can see what questions have already been posted, so I don't, repeat stuff?
Yeah, all of the questions, they're still in draft form just because there were a number of them, and so we haven't posted them. Basically, what we did was extend the deadline and then open this up for any additional questions that people have not posed. But they will all be posted on the website by Wednesday.
So there's a chance I'm asking a question that's already been asked.
That's no problem.
So I do have two questions. One is, I thought it was a little ambiguous who pays for the local surveyors. The contractor is supposed to train them, but it wasn't clear whether the Sosai is paying for them, or or the contractor has to pay for the local surveyors.
For all of the local surveyors, the contractor has to pay for them. So I think the confusion may be in the TOR that Sosai is supposed to have a representative go to join the site visits. And we wanted that to be the case so that they had clear visibility on each of the sites, and that everything was being done uniformly. So Sosai has to join for those site visits and they pay for that. And then, but the contractor has to pay for all of the site visits and the local analysis. So everything that the terms of reference outlines in terms of deliverables, the contractor has to pay for as part of the USTDA grant.
And one other question, or I should have made a note of where it says this, but somewhere it says expecting the project to be finished by March of next year. And it's not clear exactly when it would start, but I'm thinking that that's probably needs to be changed.
Yeah, and that will really be changed. I wouldn't be concerned about that. We will work on that on the final kind of when the feasibility study should be completed once it gets started, and kind of at the secondary agreement stage. So basically, the first step is awarding the company, then doing doing a due diligence on the contractor, that the preferred contractor, and then a secondary agreement between the contractor and Sosai that USTDA reviews, and that outlines the payment schedule and everything. And in that document, we'll include the deadline for when the feasibility study should be completed. But a lot of that will depend on when the award happens, when we are ready to sign the secondary agreement. And that is also something that we can flexibly extend if things are going longer and both parties agree. But I think the Sosai's goal is that a feasibility study be completed within about a year's time. Okay, over to, I think it's hard to see what order hands were raised, but over to Emmanuel. Yes. I can see you looking, Emmanuel. Maybe you're just trying to unmute. Okay, I think maybe while you're trying to unmute, maybe over to Carlton.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I had a question about, and I don't see how the expectation that there's certain GIS data that has to be collected in a particular GIS software. And I'm wondering for the teams that will be the local teams who's collecting the data for the 90 to however many locations, who's paying for the equipment and the software for those teams? And how many teams are there going to be? You probably don't know that, but
Yeah, so the contractor would need to figure out those kinds of logistics, how many teams they need, how many folks they need to hire for the local surveys. And that can, that can happen. I mean, looking at previous projects or talking with folks on the ground who have done this before, but would have some insight into how many teams you would need and everything. I don't think that the GIS, it requires GIS, but I don't think that we require specific, we don't name a specific software. So that would be up to you. But I think that a lot of those questions are things that you guys have to figure out. And I would kind of direct you to local companies and others that have done this in Nigeria already. I think, you know, part of this is that it is new territory in a lot of ways. So there are projects that are on the ground, our mini grid projects on the ground and that are up and running in Nigeria, but kind of doing it at a much larger scale is something that, you know, we've been working to support over the last couple of years, but is a bit of a new territory. So I think that hopefully that answers your question, but we're not requiring specific software.
Yeah, well, if it's not software, the equipment that they need to have, let's say there's 10 teams, would the contractor have to buy the equipment for them to do the GIS work?
You would have to, yeah, you would have to supply the equipment and you could rent it, or you wouldn't have to necessarily buy it. But it would be up to you in terms of facilitating the collection of the data, whether that's by buying, you know, the GIS equipment or by renting it, or having a local subcontractor that has those capabilities and that equipment already.
I have one other question. The mini grids, they talked about transmission and distribution. Is there a goal to, and I guess that would be in design, would there be a design requirement so that they would be future connection to the distribution system, or are they going to all be standalone or stay standalone? That requires, you know, equipment that can synchronize with the distribution system.
So the question is, will all the mini grids be standalone mini grids?
Yes, or will they in the future be connected to the distribution system? Because there's some comments in there regarding the distribution and transmission system.
Yeah, I think that and Habiba has now joined, but it sounds like they have a pretty poor connection. Habiba, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
We had to move towns, but at least we're just arriving somewhere that we can get it. Yes, there are 5 of the mini grids are interconnected mini grid currently in the 100. But in future, there are possibilities of also making them tied to the distribution network. Yeah.
Okay.
But that will not be something that you will. But 5 of the current on the list is I interconnected. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Carlton.
Do they have storage, or are they independent as well?
They will have storage, definitely. All our mini grids are going to have storage because the connection, the strength of the network we're not sure of, so all of them are going to have a backup.
Okay.
Thanks. And Sandeep, I'm going to turn it to you for the next question, and then Shannon will take over as moderator in calling on people with their questions. And then anything that that there's not a clear answer to, Shannon will record it, and then we will be able to post that as part of the RFP to make sure we have an answer for everybody. And then we will stop at the hour. And if there are additional questions that we don't get to, please send an email to, I would think actually send it to, Shannon can give you everybody our email addresses, but also just submit it to the RFP and we'll make sure it gets a response. So just go through the normal process. So Sandeep, over to you, and Shannon, over to you for moderation.
Okay, thank you very much, Claire. So I have a bunch of questions, Claire. Let me start with something which actually Peter asked a little bit ago. So the question was regarding local surveyors, and we understand that the contractor will pick up the cost related to training the surveyors and maybe their logistical cost. But it's still not clear from the RFP if the local surveyors are like the grantees employees, or will they be part of our team? So is that something
the
that
surveyors will be part of your team? The actual
Okay.
surveyors will be part of your team. Sosai will join for them, but the surveyors will be part of your team. So the contractor will be paying for the surveyors.
Okay, understood. So in that case, Claire, training them, if they're already trained, if this is something they've already done in the past, then is training really required for them? That's where the disconnect
You want to
comes
make
in.
sure, it depends, if they've already done this before, obviously you can modify your training accordingly, but
Okay.
you want to make sure that everybody is collecting that uniform data as outlined in the RFP. So
Understood.
it's unlikely that they'll have specifically collected that data, things like, collecting the information on women and things like that. So you need to make sure that they are following and collecting the data as outlined in the RFP.
Got it. Understood. No, thanks for clarifying that, Claire. Okay, so we had some other technical questions too, and I understand, Claire, that those will be responded by the TDA in writing and posted to the RFP website. Just a general question here is, one of the states where Sosai is developing the mini grids is Kaduna. Kaduna has had significant security issues in the past. It's on a do not travel list from the State Department. Have there been any provisions made by the grantee to that effect to provide security?
So just to jump in here, this is another reason why we want Sosai will have a representative with the survey teams that goes out, because they are well traveled in the region. And Habiba, I'll turn it over to you to speak to this as well. But they have really good networks in the region and good relationships in the region. And that was definitely a concern of ours, and one reason why we wrote in the TOR that they will have a representative accompany the teams that you guys sent out.
And in addition to that, it's if you are sending in like foreigners and you don't feel good about it, you're also free to. I know there are some security agencies that most foreigners have been taking. We currently have a Dutch person in our organization, and we don't have any problems so far. But yeah, if you feel better to add another level of security to your team, then that's okay by us. But we will advise at best places to be at what time and all of that. And now we're trying to we're also working with the state government, so we'll get their support in that as well.
Okay, sounds good. And Claire, Claire and Habiba both, is my understanding correct that some of the other questions that we have posted and others have posted, those will be responded separately in writing? So I don't have to bring them up right now?
I can jump in here. Sandeep, if there are any questions that you're comfortable raising now that Habiba can respond to, I think that would be preferable just while everyone's on the call. That said, if you would prefer getting a response in writing, if you wouldn't mind just following up on that, your original email submission, just saying, hey, this question wasn't responded to during the call. Would you mind responding in writing? And then we'll be sure to post all our answers by Wednesday.
Okay, all right, sounds good. No, I think I'm good, Shannon. So we'll just wait for those responses. I think some of those questions need a little bit of thought process and may not be answerable right away. So it's probably better that the Habiba and her team take some time to think about it and give us a response. So we are okay to wait until Wednesday for those.
Great, sounds good. All right.
Will this be part of the questions that we've already answered?
Yes, so the original list of questions that we received, Habiba, we haven't posted our answers yet, just since we were hoping to address a lot of them here. So Sandeep, if you're comfortable, you can always raise the questions just because Habiba has had the opportunity to look them over. That said, we can also provide the answers in writing on Wednesday.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like the next person, and again, I apologize if I'm going out of order. I can only see folks with their hands raised. Carlton, were all of your questions answered?
For now.
Okay. Looks like next up is Louise Flynn.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My questions have to do about deal with the environmental screening. You only talk about having to do ESMPs. Does that mean that the sites have been pre-screened so that there are no ESIAs that would be involved, such that, or that they've already been excluded from the exclusionary list? And then my second question has to do with, is the contractor responsible for taking all the sites through to permitting with the Federal Ministry of Environment?
Okay. Where do you want me to go?
Yes, Viva, if you could respond, that would be great.
Carlton's hand is still up, so I think he doesn't have any questions again. Anyway, so the first one you asked about the ESMP, that's the requirement of the REA. Currently, for mini grid projects, you don't have to do ESIs. What they ask for are ESMPs. That's the requirement. I mean, that's what the government wants us to do, and that's why we have that. Then for the taking the contractor will take it to the permits. Yes, if I'm not mistaken, right? Sorry, that is one thing that maybe I might have to come back to. So yeah, I'm not sure, but I think yes, you take it to permit.
And does that mean then that the contractor is responsible for all the community outreach associated with the seeking environment comments on the ESMP?
Yes, we can support you, but you're responsible for that.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that, Louise. And again, like Habiba said, we'll get back to you on that second question in more detail.
I couldn't hear the answer very well. Did she say that the contractors are responsible for obtaining the permits?
Yes, that is my understanding. Habiba, please jump in if I'm incorrect.
I'm not very sure. I will need to check in. That's one I said I'll respond to by email to be like very sure.
Oh, thanks.
Great. So it looks like the next person with questions is William McKenzie.
Hi, just following up on Louise's comment. So in that regard, the contractor is responsible for then, in the surveying firm, 2 site visits. So one to do the initial site assessment, and then the second one to go with the regulatory authority as well as Sosai to move the project towards approval. Is that what you're expecting?
No, I don't think that's how it is. Site assessment, when you go to site one time, I mean, if you plan your work well, you will not have to go again. With the regulatory authority, it is what they are asking for is ESMP. I don't know if I'm answering your question right, but you just have to do your assessments once, and you send the report in. I mean, except if you feel there's a need for you to repeat, but as is, you're going there once might just. That's not a requirement of the regulatory authority.
Okay, understanding. So we're supposed to. I'm asking questions / making a statement, so I apologize for that. So just so I'm clear, during the site assessment, you expect us to get all the required information that's important for first the design, as well as the ESMP, and then for the ESMP, you expect us just to collect information to put into the ESMP documentation, which I guess can then go into permitting. But again, I know you're going to double check on that, but I think it's just a very important thing to confirm, just so that there's an understanding if what you require will actually compel us or anyone to have 2 site visits as opposed to 1?
Well, you see, the bottom line for us is that you get to give us the requirement that the RFP, that's on the terms. So if you think that to get the work done, you need to do 2 site visits, then that will be your call. That's how I think. And I would like to call on Claire to further clarify this. It's for you to do the activity and give us this report at the end. What you need to do it's now going to be how you define it, right? Claire, help me here.
So unfortunately, Claire had to drop off for another call, but I do think this is another example of where we can respond in writing and we can touch base offline, Habiba.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and just add a follow-up question. So for the sites that have been selected, it wasn't clear as to the information you currently have, as well as how you obtain that information. Are you able to share that with us?
Currently, what we have from the sites that we have are just the names, the GPS locations, and that's it. So every other information is supposed to be part of the feasibility study. We don't have any much more information that's on ground. If you need anything else, maybe you can send an email and we can, help you get it. But for now, that's what we have.
Okay, got you.
That's given to us, given to us by the state government.
Okay, so again, I'm sorry, so these are sites that were provisioned to you by the state government, which you put into the study.
Yeah.
You've not actually been to many of the sites. Is that what you're saying?
No, we haven't been to all of the sites at all.
Okay.
Great, and William, does that address all of your questions? Okay.
Yes, I look forward to the information in writing.
Yes, absolutely. And it looks like, Louise, your hand is still up, but let me know if we didn't address all of your questions.
I forgot to ask a question.
Yeah.
Will Sosai be involved with any of the level of community outreach to identify local stakeholders and the vulnerable community? Or is the contractor responsible for doing all that community outreach as well as the community outreach that is necessary during the permitting process?
We will support you.
Okay.
And it looks like we still have one more question from, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, Olu Ajala.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you're a little quiet. You might want to speak up as much as possible.
Okay, how about now?
Much better, thank you.
Awesome. Well, I guess one point I wanted to make is for local contractors and GPS enabled audit app, you can reach out to, I have a text in a meeting chat, Oluwajala at oajala@ashipaelectric.com. On another end, I wanted to ask, given that you haven't visited all the sites where a GPS located was provided, in some cases, those GPS locations may not be accurate. And so what kind of support will you provide in actually, locating those sites and ensuring that the GPS actually matches the site that has been provided?
Well, like I said, when it's time to go to field with the contractor, we're going to work with the state governments who allocated this sites to us, and ensure that they give us the right direction to the place and all of that, and then we now ensure to get the right GPS location. That's why we put that as a level also in the RFP.
Okay, thanks.
Great, and actually looks like Carlton, your hand is still up, and Olu, your hand is went down. Carlton, do you have any more questions?
Yes, I was looking in I guess, the site survey in section 3. And I guess I was listening to the questions and I was a little bit confused about, it says the grantee will provide the team that will be trained by the contractor. And so I'm hearing something different.
Yes, someone actually asked this during a meeting. So, Sosai team is going to follow you. Some of Sosai team is going to follow you to sites to help with some of the work that you're doing. So you're responsible to train them how you want to undertake the work.
Okay, and I guess would that be like 1 or 2 people, or how is that going to be per team?
Is that clear?
I can't hear you.
Okay.
Habib, it sounds like we're losing your connection a little bit.
Yeah, we're going into an area where there's no network. Did you hear my answer?
No.
Okay. So I said that because you're going to work with him to go into the field, and you have maybe a specific way you want to run the activities, it is your responsibility to also train the Sosai team that's going to join you in field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for all 100 sites.
I'm glad you heard that. Yeah.
Great. Carlton, do you have any follow-up questions for Habiba, or is that everything?
I think that's fine.
Okay. Does anyone else on the call have any additional questions for Habiba that she can address now? Oh, I see Doug.
Doug, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Shannon. Again, this is in writing also, but if we could have Habiba's reaction, I think it might be helpful. For the network, the grid connectivity model. Let's see this specifically: grid, GIS, and network connectivity model. There were 3 types of software that were named as being used for that modeling. I'm just wondering what the thought process was in terms of those specific software packages, and if there's any particular reason why those were selected.
Habiba, are you able to respond to that?
Sorry?
Did you hear Doug's question?
Oh, okay. I missed that. Okay, so yes, there was. Yeah, I.
So you broke up there for just a second. Did you hear Doug's question? It was related to the 3 software types.
Software. Yeah, I heard him. So there's really no reason other than that we're sure that the answers that we expect will help the work, be good. But I think I saw this in one of the recent questions, and I responded that if you have an option that's equally good, it's fine. We just, in the long run, want value.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. James Walsh looks like he has a question.
Hi, thanks. Just to follow up on the discussion between Carlton and Habiba, is the number of Sosai representatives, has that been defined? How many will participate in the training and how many will therefore participate in the site visits?
That's not been defined. It's I think it will depend on what you need from us. Like if you decide to have 5 teams and you want us to say staff on each team, then we'll then know. So we're not sure what you will need. It depends on your need. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's we'll define that and in our proposal to you. Excellent, thank you.
Okay, great.
Great, and it looks like, William, do you have another follow-up question?
Yes, I do. So just in regards to, again, the 100 sites, considering the fact that the sites have not yet been visited. There's still some information needs to be gathered. Is the expectation then for the contractor to help them identify which of these sites actually can be developed, or is it we're doing 100 sites? We need to figure out 100 sites. Can you shed light into that?
So yes, for each state, we'll ask the state government to give us 30, 35 sites, which they did. But yeah, the idea is behind the whole feasibility. Are you losing me?
You're breaking up just a bit, Habiba.
Yeah, we're not hearing any of it.
Now? Hello? Can
Try
you hear
again
me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm so sorry about the network. And that's why I'm trying to talk fast so that I can get everybody in before it goes really bad. So I was saying that of all of these 100 sites, the reason why we want to even do the feasibility studies is to know where the sites are, understand what the needs are, and then also know if it's viable site. So that's part of the package of doing this whole feasibility study and why I on board.
So it's Habiba, you broke up a bit at the end there. So I think we'll just be sure that the response to this question makes its way to the written responses that we'll be issuing on Wednesday.
Yeah, just so I can follow up. So I guess then this also, it helps clarify, again, the following step, for example, the ESMP, right? So, obviously, since these sites, so I guess just since these sites are in they haven't been visited yet, and then the site visit will help determine the feasibility. I suspect then the desire to determine if it needs ESMP is contingent on it being feasible. So I think and again, I'm sorry I'm making a statement without asking a question, but just being able to clarify that is important, because I'm not sure if it's all these sites need ESMPs, or is it just the ones that are the most likely to be developed that are feasible need ESMPs.
Sorry, I didn't get your question because I was trying to respond to in the chat. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now, Habiba.
Okay. Sorry, what was your question?
So again, I apologize beforehand because I'm making a statement without asking a question. But as the questions come, I'm understanding more deeply what you need and the level that you're at. So if the visit to the 100 sites will help determine if they are feasible or not. Invariably, some sites will not be feasible, or for a certain reason, some are more feasible. So I guess my question is then regards to the ESMPs. So the ESMPs, are there for every site regardless if they're feasible or not, or they're just for the ones that have been prioritized as, yes, these are feasible for us to progress with?
Well, I think for all sites, ESMPs have to be carried out.
Even if they're not feasible?
Well, how would you know the feasibility if you're not done with the whole process?
Okay, I understood.
Does anyone else have any other questions? If not, then I think we can wrap this up.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, where is there going to be a base location? Will that be in Abuja, or will it be in Kaduna State? Which I've been in Kaduna State before. They have a very strong distribution system. But where would the base of operation be?
I think that will be a choice the contractor has to make. I mean, what is convenient for you and your team is what you're going to do. So you select the one you like. But Abuja will seem to me like more likely, because Abuja is in the middle of all three states, sort of. I mean, if I was to suggest for you, I would choose Abuja. But it's also something that you have to also look at and see what works for you and financially and all other, every other way.
My thoughts is Abuja, because I've been there several times, and it seems to be you find a good place to centralize.
Abuja is like in the middle. Kogi is on the left side, Kaduna is on the right side, and Plateau is like ahead of it. So it's in the middle.
Where are you located, if you don't mind me asking?
Kaduna.
Kaduna, okay. I was in Kaduna in 2003.
Oh, nice.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. William, it looks like your hand is still raised. Do you have any follow-up? Assuming no. All right. Thank you so much. Well, hearing no additional questions, I think we can wrap this up. Again, we have been recording this, so we'll be posting it on the RFP site, and we'll also be responding to any questions that were not addressed here, or the one question where there was a bit of an issue with internet connectivity. We'll be sure to respond to that in writing, and that will be published by Wednesday. If there are any other questions that have come up over the course of today's call that we didn't get to, please be sure to email them to the RFP email address by the end of the day so that we can include it in our list of questions.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Makes it very easy.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. This was very helpful.